My father left his entire inheritance to my brother-in-law. He's more of a man than you, he'd said. He gave me grandchildren, and you don't even have a girlfriend? You loser. So, I stopped paying his bills and let his precious son-in-law take care of him. My name is Caesar. I'm 37, and until recently, I was the financial backbone of my family. It wasn't something I bragged about, but I wasn't ashamed either. It was a duty, something I took on after my mother died 10 years ago and my father, Fernando, was lost at sea. He was never a man of many resources, and over time, the responsibility of keeping the house, paying the bills, and putting food on the table fell on me. There was also my younger sister, Mariana, 29, who lived with us and depended on me because, according to her, she couldn't find a job worth her time. I didn't complain much, even though sometimes I felt like I was carrying a weight no one acknowledged. I work as an accountant in a mid-sized company. It's not the most exciting job, but it pays well, and with overtime and some freelance gigs, I managed to keep us all afloat. The house we lived in was modest but comfortable. 3 bedrooms, a small yard, and a dining room where my father spent hours watching TV. I paid for the electricity, water, gas, internet, taxes, everything. I even bought the groceries and my father's medications. At 65, he was starting to have his share of aches and pains. Mariana, on the other hand, was supposed to take care of the house, although in practice that meant doing the bare minimum, washing dishes when they piled up and sweeping occasionally. But I didn't say anything. They were my family, and you do what you have to do. Everything changed when Mariana fell in love with Martin, a landscaper she met in the neighborhood. Martin was 32, a burly guy with sun-bronzed skin and a confident smile that always seemed more arrogant than friendly to me. He wasn't a bad person, or at least he didn't seem like it at first, but there was something about him that rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe it was the way he talked, like he was always competing, or how he strutted around while mowing the neighbors' lawns with that "look at me, I'm a real man" attitude. Mariana, however, was fascinated. She said Martin was authentic, not like the boring office guy she knew. I guess she meant me, although she never said it directly. When Mariana introduced me to Martin, I tried to be polite. I offered him a beer. We talked a little about soccer, but the conversation didn't flow. He looked at me like he was sizing me up, and I felt like he didn't like me. I didn't care much. I didn't need to be his friend. I just wanted him to treat my sister well. A few months later, Mariana announced they were getting married. It was a simple wedding in our backyard, and I paid for almost everything. The food, the drinks, even Mariana's dress. Martin contributed what he could, which wasn't much, and my father, as always, just offered his opinions on what was right or wrong. "Caesar, make sure there's enough meat. Don't be stingy," he'd tell me while I was signing the checks. After the wedding, Martin moved in with us. I thought it would be temporary, that they'd soon find their own place, but Mariana said they couldn't afford it. Martin didn't make much as a landscaper, and she still wasn't working. So, once again, I accepted the burden. Now I wasn't just supporting my father and sister, but my brother-in-law too. I paid for food for 4, the utilities, and even the gas for the old truck Martin used for his work. He never thanked me, and if he did, it was with a tone that sounded more like mockery than gratitude. "Good thing you have that little job, Caesar. Without you, we'd be screwed," he'd say with a chuckle that made me grit my teeth. My father, for his part, didn't help matters. Since my mother died, he'd become harder on me. He'd always been a traditional man, one of those who think a real man should have a wife, kids, and a house full of noise. Me, on the other hand, I'd never had a girlfriend. It's not that I didn't want one, it just hadn't happened. I was shy in my teens, then focused on studying, and then on working to support my family. The few times I tried dating, it didn't work out. It wasn't something that kept me up at night, but for my father, it was a personal affront. "Caesar, when are you going to settle down? You're 37 years old, man, and not even a girlfriend. What kind of man are you?" He'd sometimes say in front of Mariana or Martin, who would laugh like it was a joke. I'd swallow my words and change the subject, but each comment felt like a stab in the gut. He didn't see everything I did for them, only what, according to him, I lacked. And when Martin joined the family, things got worse. My father started treating him like the son he always wanted. "Look at Martin, he's a real man. He married your sister. He makes her happy," he'd say while I was there paying everyone's bills. The last straw came when Mariana got pregnant about 6 months after the wedding. My father was ecstatic. He'd always dreamed of having grandchildren, and now his daughter was giving him what I, according to him, never could. The house filled with preparations, baby clothes, a crib, diapers, bottles. Who paid for all that? Me, of course. Mariana didn't work, and Martin barely earned enough to cover his own expenses. My father contributed a minimal pension that he used for his cigarettes and beer. So, once again, I pulled out my wallet. I bought everything the baby needed, from diapers to a stroller Mariana saw online and had to have. When my nephew Lucas was born, the dynamic in the house completely shifted. Mariana and Martin became the king and queen, and my father couldn't stop praising them. "Look at this beautiful grandson, Caesar. This is what makes a man happy," he'd say while holding the baby. I was happy to see Lucas, I won't lie. He was a healthy baby with big eyes that made you smile, but I couldn't ignore how they treated me. Martin mocked me every chance he got with comments like, "Caesar, when are you going to have one of these? All right, you need a woman first." Mariana would laugh, and my father would nod as if he agreed. I would just smile and carry on, but inside, the anger was starting to build. I kept paying for everything: diapers, formula, pediatrician appointments. Every month, my bank account dwindled a little more, and no one seemed to notice. My father continued with his comments. "Caesar, you're a failure. At your age, I already had 2 kids. You don't even have a girlfriend." Martin, for his part, strutted around like he was the hero of the house, even though he didn't contribute a dime to Lucas's upkeep. I once overheard him talking to a neighbor. "Caesar's the one who pays for everything, but I'm the one who calls the shots around here." I wanted to confront him, but I held back. I didn't want to fight in the house. I didn't want to give my father another excuse to humiliate me. Months passed like this. Lucas grew, and I continued to be the family's ATM. Sometimes I wondered why I did it, why I kept supporting people who treated me like I was worthless. I guess it was because of my mother. She always told me that family comes first, that you don't abandon your own. But every day that idea felt heavier, more unfair. A year after Lucas was born, Mariana announced she was pregnant again. My father was overjoyed. "Another grandchild. This is what makes life worth living," he said, hugging Mariana and Martin. I was in the kitchen listening, and no one looked at me. No one asked how I was doing or if I could continue paying for another child. They just assumed I would, as always. That night, while I was in my room looking at my bank account and watching the numbers shrink, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Exhaustion, not just physical but emotional. I was tired of being invisible, of being the one carrying everyone while they laughed at me. But I wasn't ready to give up yet. I still believed that maybe my father would recognize everything I did for them. I still had hope. That changed a few weeks later when my father decided to gather us all to talk about his will. What happened that night broke something inside me and marked the beginning of the end. It was a Friday afternoon, and I had just gotten home from work. I was exhausted. I'd spent the entire day crunching numbers, dealing with a boss who always found something to complain about, and then worked a couple of hours overtime to cover the increased household expenses. I sat down in a chair, feeling a knot in my stomach. I didn't know what this was about, but I didn't like it. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to sound calm. My father took a sip of his beer, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and looked at me intently. "I'm going to talk about my will," he said. "I'm old, and I don't want to leave anything unfinished. I want everyone to know what I've decided." I stayed quiet. I wasn't expecting this. My father had never talked about his will before, and although we weren't rich, he had something of value. The house we lived in, which was in his name, and a small plot of land in the town where he grew up. It wasn't a fortune, but it was something. And being honest, I always assumed the inheritance would be split between Mariana and me. After all, we were his children. But something in his tone, in the way he looked at me, made me suspect it wasn't going to be that simple. "Before I begin," my father continued, "I want to say that I've thought about this a lot. A man's life is measured by what he leaves behind, by his legacy. And I, thank God, have a legacy." He looked at Mariana and Lucas, and then at Martin with a smile he'd never given me. "I have a daughter who has given me grandchildren and a son-in-law who is a real man. That's what matters." I felt a pang in my chest, but I didn't say anything. I was used to his comments, his insinuations about my single status, about how I wasn't a man because I didn't have a wife or children. But this time was different. There was an intention behind his words, something crueler. Mariana looked down as if she knew what was coming, and Martin leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms with that expression of superiority that made me want to wipe it off his face with a punch. "Caesar," my father said, turning to me, "you know I've always been direct with you. I've never lied to you, and I'm going to be clear now. I'm disappointed in you. You're 37 years old, and what have you done? You have no wife, no children. You haven't given me any grandchildren. You're a failure as a man. You haven't lived up to what's expected of you." The words hit me like a hammer. It wasn't the first time he'd said things like that, but this time was different. He was saying it in front of everyone, with a calmness that set my nerves on edge. I felt the blood rushing to my head, but I held back. I wanted to hear the rest. I wanted to know where he was going with this. Therefore, he continued, I've decided that my inheritance isn't going to you. The house, the land, everything I own, I leave to Martin. He's the man of this family. He's given me grandchildren. He's made my daughter happy. And I know he'll take care of my legacy. You, Caesar, deserve nothing. The silence that followed was deafening. I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. I looked at my father, hoping he'd say it was a joke, that he was just messing with me. But he was looking at me with contempt, as if I were a stranger, as if I hadn't spent the last 10 years supporting him, paying his bills, buying his food. I looked at Mariana, searching for any sign that she was as surprised as I was, but she still had her head down, stroking Lucas. Martin, on the other hand, was smiling like he'd just won a trophy. What? I managed to say, my voice trembling. Are you telling me you're leaving everything to him? To Martin, the guy who doesn't pay a cent in this house. My father leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. Don't make me repeat myself, Caesar. Martin is more of a man than you. He has a family. He has children. You have nothing. What have you done with your life? Nothing. You're a failure. And I'm not going to reward a failure. I don't know how to describe what I felt at that moment. It was a mix of rage, pain, and something else, something I hadn't felt before, liberation. Because in that instant, everything became clear. For years, I'd killed myself working to support this family, to make sure they had everything they needed, and in return, I received contempt, mockery, humiliation. And now my own father was telling me that I was worthless, that a landscaper who could barely support himself was more worthy than me. I stood up, my hands shaking. Fine, I said, with a calmness that surprised even me. If Martin is such a man, let him pay for everything. Let him support the house, buy the diapers, pay the bills. I'm leaving. Without waiting for a response, I went up to my room, grabbed a suitcase, and started packing my things. I wasn't thinking much, just acting. I packed clothes, my laptop, some important documents, everything I needed to start over. While I was packing, I heard my father yelling from the dining room. Go, Caesar. See how long you last on your own. Without us, you're nothing. Mariana didn't say anything, and Martin just laughed. That was what hurt the most, that my sister, the person I'd given everything for, didn't say a word to defend me. I came downstairs with my suitcase in hand, and before leaving, I stopped in front of my father. I hope Martin is as much of a man as you say, because from now on, you won't see a penny from me. Then I looked at Martin. And you, hero, start working overtime, because now it's your turn to support everyone. I walked out of the house, closed the door, and didn't look back. I walked to a nearby hotel, a cheap one where I could stay for a few days while I decided what to do. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, replaying everything that had happened, feeling the rage burning inside me. But also, for the first time in a long time, I felt something else, freedom. I had carried that family on my shoulders for years, and now I was finally free of them. The following days were a whirlwind. I found a small apartment near my work and moved in with what little I had. I canceled all the bills that were in my name, the electricity, water, internet at my father's house. I didn't pay Mariana's phone bill or buy the diapers she asked me for via text message. Every time I saw their names on my phone, I felt a pang of guilt, but then I remembered my father's words. Failure. Useless. You're not a man. And that guilt turned into determination. A week after I left, I got a call from my father. I didn't answer the first time, but he insisted so much that I finally gave in. When I answered, his voice was full of fury. What's wrong with you, Caesar? They cut off our electricity. There's no water in the house. And Lucas's diapers ran out days ago. And Mariana can't buy more. The baby's coming any day now. And we don't even have enough for the hospital. Martin's doing what he can, but it's not enough. I couldn't help but laugh. It was a bitter laugh, but liberating. I'm nothing, Dad. Don't you remember? I'm a failure. Useless. But don't worry. You have your precious son-in-law, the great Martin. He's a real man, isn't he? Let him pay for everything. Don't be stupid, he yelled. Martin doesn't have the money you have. You know he can't do it. Then why did you give him everything? I replied, my voice cold. If he's such a man, let him take care of it. I'm not anyone's ATM anymore. I hung up the phone and turned it off. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going back. Let Martin, the real man, take care of everything, and let my father learn what it was like to live without the failure he so despised. Meanwhile, my life was starting to take shape. At work, I was offered a small promotion with a raise that allowed me to save more. I started going out with some colleagues after work, something I'd never done because I was always busy rushing home to solve my family's problems. I even joined a gym, not because I wanted to be like Martin with his landscaper muscles, but because I wanted to feel better about myself. Little by little, I was building a life that didn't revolve around the needs of others. A month later, my father called me. He said something serious had happened and that I needed to come over right away. I was scared. I thought my sister had lost the baby or something had happened to my nephew, Lucas, but when I arrived, I realized it was a lie. He just wanted me to talk to them. "Sit down, Caesar," my father said in a voice that was trying to be firm but sounded broken. I remained standing, arms crossed. I wasn't going to let them treat me like before. "Talk," I said. "You said it was important." My father sighed, as if he was struggling to find the words. "Look, son, things aren't good. Since you left, everything's gone to hell. We have no electricity, no water. Lucas's diapers ran out days ago, and Mariana can't buy more. The baby's coming any minute now, and we don't even have enough for the hospital. Martin's doing what he can, but it's not enough." I looked at Martin, who clenched his beer in his hand, but said nothing. I wanted to laugh, but I held back. "And what do you want me to do, Dad? Go back to paying for everything? Continue being the idiot who supports everyone while you and your favorite son-in-law laugh at me?" "It's not like that, Caesar," Mariana said, tears in her eyes. "We need you. Lucas needs you. Please don't leave us like this." Her words hurt me, but not enough. I'd heard that tone before when she asked me for money or favors, always with the implicit promise that someday she'd thank me for it. But they never did. Instead, they stabbed me in the back. "You know what?" I said, looking at all three of them. "For years, I gave everything for you. I paid the bills, bought the food, the diapers, everything. And in return, what did I get? Mockery, humiliation. You call me a failure, Dad. You said Martin was more of a man than me because he gave you grandchildren. Well, here's your real man. Let him pay, let him support the house, let him be the hero you admire so much." Martin stood up as if he wanted to confront me, but my father raised a hand to stop him. "Caesar, please," he said, and now he did sound desperate. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things. You're my son, and I need you. Come back home. Don't leave us like this. We have nothing." "No," I said with a calmness that surprised me. "I'm not going back. You made your decision. You chose Martin, Dad. You chose your favorite son-in-law. Now live with it." My father started to sob, something I'd never seen him do. "Caesar, please, we don't even have a penny. I don't know what we're going to do." "Then ask your real man," I said, pointing to Martin. "Or tell Mariana to get a job. But don't look at me. I'm not your bank anymore. I'm not your failure anymore." I turned around and walked towards the door. Mariana yelled my name, but I didn't stop. My father continued pleading, but his words faded as I left the house. I closed the door behind me, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilt, I didn't feel pain, I just felt peace. That was the last time I saw them. I blocked their numbers, cut off all contact. I heard from a neighbor months later that the house was foreclosed on because they couldn't pay the taxes. Martin left Mariana, saying he couldn't handle the pressure, and left town. Mariana ended up moving in with a friend, struggling to support her 2 children. My father, according to what I heard, ended up in an assisted living facility, depending on the charity of others. I don't know if it's true, and honestly, I don't care. Today, my life is different. I have a better position at work, a bigger apartment, and I've even started dating someone, a woman who makes me laugh and doesn't judge me for what I don't have. I don't know if I'll have children someday, but if I do, it will be because I want to, not because someone tells me that's what makes me a man. Sometimes I think about my father, Mariana, and Martin. I wonder if they ever understood what they lost. But then I laugh because it doesn't matter. They bet on their real man, and I won my freedom, and that, to me, is the real victory. Subscribe for more daily stories.